Throughout the world, human beings have that written genetic instinct to survive and to have purpose. In modern vernacular, we call that career-oriented, or perhaps goal-driven, with many people of different ideas developing visions of what they want to accomplish. Hence, companies and competition flourish to continually improve products and services of any category. Let us now go to Kyoto, Japan in the second half of the 20th century. A Hanafuda card company established in 1889 called Nintendo had a recent change in management. It is now run by the great-grandson of the founder, a man by the name of Hiroshi Yamauchi, who saw that his family's company was stagnant. Therefore, decided to take it forward by dabbling into new markets and diversifying its brand, including toys, instant rice, and even taxi services. After several hit and misses, Nintendo found that a new industry was beginning to emerge in the early 1970s from the successes of Atari and Magnavox, called video gaming. Nintendo's innovation team developed and released to the market several products including the Beam Gun, the Nintendo Color TV game, the Game & Watch, and its first arcade game, Radarscope. Radarscope was successful in Japan, but not so much in North America, and one of the company's major goals was to obtain that North American market. Therefore, many concepts were proposed for a second arcade game, including one by a young designer named Shigeru Miyamoto, whose concept of an ape kidnapping a young woman only to be rescued by a mustached hero was the one chosen to capture that market. That game, known as Donkey Kong, was a concept based off of a mix of the heroics of Popeye and the exploits of the legendary King Kong. Nowadays, for my generation, when you think of Kong, you think of Donkey Kong, the genesis of the platformer genre and the origin of video games' greatest mascot, Mario. My first exposure to Donkey Kong was getting it for Easter in the same Easter basket on that same Easter Sunday that I received Super Mario Bros. 3. For more on that story, check out my Super Mario video for more information. It was not the arcade cabinet, but an NES version of the game called Donkey Kong Classics that came with the original Donkey Kong and Donkey Kong Jr. Due to the lack of memory in the cartridge, Nintendo cut the second stage, or the cement factory, and cut the cutscenes for this version. So it wasn't until I played Donkey Kong 64 that I knew of the existence of this second level. Mario was featured on the Donkey Kong box and in the game, but he looked different, and the levels were different too from the Super Mario games I previously played. In this case, it was a single screen or frame with a smaller than usual Mario sprite making his way up the construction site instead of his usual side-scrolling escapades. On his way up, he would be met with resistance from Donkey Kong throwing barrels to cause the player's demise. This is one of the earliest games that featured the jump mechanic, allowing the player to jump over the rolling barrels and even across gaps. Donkey Kong was one of the earliest games to have more than one level, including a cement factory, an elevator level, and the final level confronting the ape to an epic showdown to rescue the lady, later known as Pauline, the first video game damsel in distress, only to be repeated countless times in the next 40 years. This game was the most complex arcade game at the time and was successful in luring in the North American market. The other game in this pack was a direct sequel to Donkey Kong called Donkey Kong Jr. This time you play as Donkey Kong Jr. and are tasked with rescuing your father Donkey Kong from Mario. Very unique to depict Mario, or Jumpman as he was known at the time of release, as a villain, not realizing how iconic he would become to the video game medium in general. A very similar game, as Donkey Kong Jr., you jump over certain enemies and you climb to the top from vines, rope, or chain links with the goal of getting to the top, and you ultimately save your father and defeat Mario, causing him to let go of his vengeance and go to the Mushroom Kingdom to save another damsel in distress. I didn't realize until many years later, as an adult, that these two games preceded even the original Super Mario Bros. By a few years, and was actually the first time we ever see Mario in a video game. After you complete the 4 stages in both games, you restart the game at the next level of difficulty, until you manage to get to level 99. I have only managed to get to level 6 myself in both, and I think it's almost impossible to progress any further. Between this compilation and Super Mario Bros. 3, Easter of 1990 was, and still is, the most epic Easter of my life. But this wasn't the end of Donkey Kong in my life. Far from it, actually. Before I go on to what I played next, just want to shout out some of the games I didn't know about that came out shortly after Donkey Kong Jr., like Donkey Kong 2 on the Game & Watch, Donkey Kong 3, where you play as Stanley the Exterminator, and a few others including Donkey Kong Math, an early education game that didn't deceive consumers like a later game. Yeah, I'm looking at you, Mario's missing. But that's the first game to star Luigi, as a quick side note. A few sports games followed, and Donkey Kong was back in the Nintendo cage for almost a decade. The 90s are upon us. The 16-bit era is already at hand, with the Super NES and the Sega Genesis duking it out in the video game market. While kids my age were arguing about whether Mario was better than Sonic, or Sonic was way cooler than Mario, a company in the UK who was known for some of the hardest games ever to grace this galaxy was in the process of reinventing the iconic Donkey Kong. This company, Rare, founded by Chris and Tim Stamper, came under Nintendo's radar after Rare purchased Silicon Graphics workstations to render 3D models. Nintendo was interested in Rare using one of their properties with the 3D models and was interested in reimagining Donkey Kong for a more modern audience. Rare agreed and started work on a new Donkey Kong game with a newly redesigned title character by Kevin Bayliss, and made it a side-scrolling platformer equivalent to the Mario games at the time. This game, with minimal involvement from Mr. Miyamoto, turned into the iconic platformer, Donkey Kong Country. Donkey Kong Country was released in 1994, and I remember seeing the commercials for this on all the time, and I will have to be honest, I was super impressed by the new graphics and the memorable ambient music to accompany it. I remember renting this game for the first time and was blown away by the opening fanfare and Donkey Kong theme transitioning from classic to cool and hip. The 3D rendered graphics and the game was a lot of fun and arguably more dynamic than the Mario and Sonic games. This game expanded on the character of Donkey Kong, this time the grandson of the original Donkey Kong from 1981, now under the name of Cranky Kong, with his family and friends including his nephew, Diddy Kong, the other playable character in the game, and supporting characters like Funky Kong and Candy Kong. Rare helped expand the Kong family like the way Carl Barks expanded the Duck family from Disney with Uncle Scrooge and other relatives of Donald Duck. The setting is on DK Island, with the island shaped like Donkey Kong's head. The objective of this game is for DK to retrieve his stolen banana hoard from the villainous Kremlings, led by the Pirate King, K. Rool, or K. Rool as pronounced in the animated show of the same name. Donkey and Diddy are both playable together, kind of like Sonic and Tails, but when one or the other gets hit, they run off and you are left to play as the remaining character. If the final character gets hit, you lose life. This game keeps you moving regardless of where you are at, from bouncing off of enemies to get to the next platform, or shooting yourself out of floating barrel cannons, or riding on animal buddies including Rambi the Rhino, On Guard the Swordfish, Winky the Frog, and Espresso the Ostrich. The world map features several areas of 5 to 8 levels, each with various themes including jungles, caves, walkways, snowy mountains, forests, coral reefs, ice caverns, and mines. There are hidden bonus areas in some levels, whether it be a hidden barrel, or a secret entrance to break with a barrel that gives you extra lives or allows you to collect golden animal buddies to play a bonus game. An interesting feature in each level is to seek out the letters that make up the word Kong, and if you collect all 4, you will receive an extra life. This is not the first game I have seen this type of feature. Check out my Smartball stream for more detail. Each area boss was usually a larger version of a minion, whether it be a Naughty, or a Neki, or a Zinger. But the final fight with King K. Rool on the Galleon was an epic fight, with a false ending which caught me off guard initially. An epic game of many proportions. The music for this game was composed by the great David Wise, who was a freelance musician for Rare, but his composition of the first level's theme, DK Island Swing, led Rare to offer him a full-time job as music and sound composer, which is, in my opinion, one of the greatest decisions Rare has made up to that point. The music in this game is very atmospheric and very ambient, to the point where each of the respective themed areas make you feel that you are there yourself, like the underwater calmness of aquatic ambience to the more synthesized industrial Fair Factory. Wise felt the audio of the game needed to be as groundbreaking as the graphics, and I believe he succeeded in that regard. Donkey Kong was released to critical acclaim due to the beautiful pre-rendered 3D model graphics, its fluid and fast-paced gameplay, and a soundtrack appealing to the senses. It has managed to sell 8 million copies, making it the third highest selling Super NES game of all time after Super Mario World and Super Mario All-Stars, due to Nintendo spending triple the usual marketing budget in North America alone. This game was re-released on the Game Boy Color and Game Boy Advance, which I was somehow not aware of, with additional features. This success has led to a sequel being greenlit called Donkey Kong Country 2, Diddy's Kong Quest, a possibly superior follow-up, depending on who you ask. Diddy's Kong Quest was developed by the same team that worked on the original game. I have never owned the original game, and because my Sega Genesis conked out on me in late '95, I resumed playing my Super NES. I saw in a Toys R Us sales catalog that came with the Sunday newspaper that there was a Donkey Kong Country 2 on sale. I asked for it for Christmas that year, so that, along with the original Star Wars trilogy on VHS, is what made that holiday special for me. I put on the game to a new Rare fanfare and the introduction of a new character, Diddy's girlfriend, Dixie Kong, who has long hair that can be used to help glide down long gaps. The premise of this game is to find and rescue Donkey Kong from K. Rool, who this time is a captain, holed up in a castle on top of Kremling Island. The game has a less vibrant color palette compared to the original game's DK Island setting, and was made up of areas unique to the previous game, including the Gangplank Galleon, Crocodile Cauldron, Krem Quay, the Crazy Kremland, Gloomy Gulch, and K. Rool's Keep. We see the return of the Kremlings with new baddies like Clampon, Spiny, Kaboing, Lockjaw, and many others. Throughout the game, there are banana coins you collect that act as currency throughout the game if you want to save your game at Wrinkly's school, participate in Swanky Kong's bonus games for extra lives, or hints on what to do from old Cranky himself. Cranky has a challenge where you seek giant DK coins in each level for bragging rights on who's the better hero. There are also secret bonus levels in this game like the last one, but this time they are specific challenges like defeat all the baddies, or find the coin to be rewarded Krem coins, which are used to purchase passage to the Lost World, and you need enough to access the 5 levels in this area to access the final ending of the game. Area bosses are different this time and will require more resourcefulness on the part of the player, as opposed to simply jumping on them like the previous game had done. The animal buddies make a return, including Rambi the Rhino, On-Guard the Swordfish, with the addition of Squitter the Spider, Radley the Snake, and Squawks the Parrot, taking a more front stage role. With the addition of the No Animal Buddies sign, Rare set up limitations on where the animal buddies can be and not be. Dave Wise returned to do the music for this game and composed some very memorable tracks this time, including Lockjaw's Locker, In a Snowbound Land, Sticker Brush Symphony, and many others that still pop in my head every now and then. This game was another success for Rare and is considered to be one of the best platformers of all time and one of the best selling as well. This, as a result, caused another sequel to be greenlit, this time starring Dixie Kong herself in Donkey Kong Country 3, Dixie Kong's Double Trouble. The following year, Dixie Kong's Double Trouble came out at the end of the Super Nintendo's life. The Nintendo 64 launched a month earlier with Super Mario 64 and Star Wars Shadows of the Empire, but at that point my folks were undergoing hard financial times, so for Christmas of '96, I asked for Donkey Kong Country 3, and alongside my first 2 Star Trek Original Series VHS tapes. It was an incredible holiday. In Donkey Kong Country 3, Dixie Kong takes center stage as the main protagonist who teams up with her cousin, Kiddy Kong, an annoying yet super strong toddler who throws barrels underhanded, can roll and bounce off of water, and will go into a temper tantrum if he loses a life. All the elements of Donkey Kong Country 2 come back, but this time Funky will give you a vehicle to traverse the New World map, called the Northern Kremosphere. You start with a simple speedboat and then work your way up to a gyrocopter as you progress. You also meet the Bear Brothers, who are scattered throughout the world, giving you hints and items to progress to 100% completion. Bear coins replace banana coins. Bonus coins are now earned after bonus levels, replacing the Krem coins to access a secret world, and the DK coins make a comeback, but this time they are now puzzles of how to defeat the coin enemy who uses the DK coin as a shield. Another new feature is the Banana Bird puzzles, who are encased in crystal in secret caves scattered throughout the world. And in order to free them, you have to play a Simon Says-like game. The story of this game is pretty much that Donkey and Diddy are both missing from taking a vacation, and Dixie goes out to rescue them from the machine called Chaos, that was created by K. Rool, this time calling himself Baron K. Rulenstein. You defeat him by throwing barrels at his hovering backpack, causing him to lose control and sending him off into the elements. This game was done by the same team as the previous 2 games, and this time Eveline Fisher composed most of the new music tracks, with Dave Wise contributing a few himself. I consider this to be the final game of the Super NES, as the N64 was already settling itself in as the next generation Nintendo console. Rare continued its collaboration with Nintendo, going into the N64 era, and to be perfectly honest, they were a friggin' powerhouse thanks to Nintendo's stake in the company. They worked on the legendary GoldenEye 007 game, and the next major Donkey Kong game, their first self-published game, Diddy Kong Racing. Like Mario Kart 64, it is a racing game, but unlike Mario Kart, this game has a story and is also an adventure game with 5 different worlds with 4 tracks each. One of the earliest games to allow you to choose what vehicle to race in, whether it be a car, hovercraft, or aeroplane. The story of the adventure is as follows. An evil war pig wizard called Whizpig takes over Timber Island, the setting, and conquers the racetracks by brainwashing the island's guardians into becoming his minions. Timber the Tiger recruits racers starting with Diddy Kong, and then other characters including Conker the Squirrel and Banjo the Bear and others to rescue each guardian and confront Whizpig to a race of high stakes. This game spawned the classic Conker's Bad Fur Day and the great Banjo-Kazooie, 3D platformers that emulated Super Mario 64 with diverse environments, collecting various things through various puzzles laid out through the areas. Banjo-Kazooie was successful, and many from that team, including an unused Mushroom Forest area from Banjo, was used in the next rare Donkey Kong game, Donkey Kong 64. Donkey Kong 64 came out in late '99 and was the game I got that particular Christmas. At this point, I owned the N64 for about a year now, and this was the 3rd game I owned after Mario 64 and Ocarina of Time. This game requires the N64 expansion pack that comes with the game. We turn on the game and we are bombarded by the DK rap. The game begins with King K. Rool and his evil mobile base of operations kidnapping the other 4 Kong family members with Diddy and newcomers Lanky Kong, Tiny Kong, who is Dixie's little sister, and Chunky Kong, who is Kiddy's older brother. Donkey Kong is the main playable character again for the first time since the original Donkey Kong Country, and sets out to rescue his friends, and needs to race against time to collect enough golden bananas so he can access the Kremling Fortress and disable the giant laser, or the Blastomatic, that will destroy DK Island. You need to collect 100 different colored bananas per character in each area, to reach the boss, and 5 golden bananas per character in each area as well to access other areas. A collect-a-thon, if you will. The game also gives each character their own unique weapon. Hence, Donkey gets a coconut gun and Diddy gets his peanut gun for the first time in this game, due to Miyamoto disapproving of the Kongs using more realistic weapons during the game's development. Members of the Kong family that return are Cranky, who gives you potions that gives different Kongs unique abilities. Wrinkly, now recently deceased, comes back as a ghost and gives you hints. Funky Kong gives you your weapons and ammo. Candy Kong gives you musical instruments to play at points in the game. And a weasel named Snide will ask you for blueprints of the Blastomatic in exchange for a golden banana. There is also a battle arena that can be found where you can earn giant crowns to help in the final area. Areas in this game include Jungle Japes, Angry Aztec, Frantic Factory, Gloomy Galleon, Fungi Forest, originally from Banjo, Crystal Caves, and Creepy Castle. This game was another success for Rare, with music this time done by Grant Kirkhope, who also did Banjo, so the similarities and comparisons to each other are justified. I like this game. Despite the opening cringe rap, I personally think Banjo-Kazooie is the superior game in terms of design and originality. This was the last Donkey Kong on console by Rare since they were bought out by Microsoft a few years later, and the last adventure platformer for over a decade, until Donkey Kong Country Returns released in 2010. Before we get into Donkey Kong Country Returns, Donkey Kong wasn't idle during the GameCube and early Wii eras, but we didn't get any true side-scrolling adventure action platformers. On GameCube, we start with the 2003 Donkey Konga games and its sequels. They're rhythm-matching games from Namco, using the DK Bongos accessory that came with the first game to hit a beat in line with the game's tune, kinda like Guitar Hero. Next game is DK Jungle Beat, a similar game by Nintendo EAD Tokyo, where you use the Bongos accessory to control DK. DK traverses levels with platforming, but not by your traditional gamepad controls. You hit the left bongo to go left, the right to go right, both to jump, and clap to cause an energy wave with the goal of getting as many beats as possible in each level. For the Wii, we get the racing game Donkey Kong Barrel Blast by Payon, where the player uses the Wii Remote and Nunchuck instead of the bongos. You can play as members of the Kong family and some Kremlings for a total of 16 players, with 4 cups equivalent to the Mario Kart games. A few years go by, and in the second half of the Wii's life cycle at E3 2010, we get a surprise announcement of another Donkey Kong Country game, this time called Donkey Kong Country Returns, but this time by Michael Kelbaugh and Retro Studios of Metroid Prime fame. I was really excited since this was the first new traditional Donkey Kong game since Donkey Kong 64. Watching the E3 footage, the game looked visually impressive but also nostalgic at the same time, similar to the new Super Mario Bros. Games. The setting for this game is back on DK Isle with most of the same areas with some new ones like the beach and the volcano. A lot of the levels are simply platformers from point A to point B. Some are rocket barrel levels. Some are Minecraft levels, and some even show silhouetted Kongs. Most of the music was stuff remixed from the original Donkey Kong Country, and a lot of the gameplay features make a grand return. You collect Kong letters again, but this time it results in accessing secret temple levels instead of just giving you extra lives. You collect puzzle pieces in every level for the additional challenge to unlock concept art. The baddies this time are not the Kremlings, but the Tiki tribe who take over DK Island by hypnotizing all the animals into stealing Donkey and Diddy's bananas. But the hypnotization doesn't work on our Kong heroes. Cranky Kong is the only other Kong that appears, and Rambi and Squawks are the only animal buddies that make an appearance in this game. The levels were tough, but fun at the same time, and platforming taken to the next level. My only gripe is the enemy designs look too cartoony and not as good as what Rare accomplished in the 90s. Returns was successful, therefore a sequel was greenlit and released on the Wii U, initially called Donkey Kong Tropical Freeze. This game follows up on Returns with a similar gameplay but has a different setting, whereas an army of animal invaders, the Snowmads, freeze DK Island and an ice dragon blows the Kongs away to a distant island. The purpose of this game is to traverse the neighboring islands and take back and unfreeze DK Island before it's too late. The new feature of this game is the new underwater levels and new underwater moves for the Kongs. We can also play with Dixie, who makes her comeback from Donkey Kong Country 3, and for the first time, we can play as Cranky Kong, who has a moveset similar to Scrooge McDuck in the DuckTales games for NES, and also DuckTales Remastered, if you haven't played them. Tropical Freeze is a great game, and the last game in the series to date. Before I forget, let's go through the handheld Donkey Kong games that I myself have not played, but needs to be acknowledged. There were many Donkey Kong games released on Nintendo's handheld, starting on the Game Boy with Donkey Kong 94, a reimagined game where you play as Mario rescuing Pauline again, with the 4 original levels and an additional 97 levels featuring gameplay elements from Donkey Kong, Donkey Kong Jr., and Super Mario Bros. 2. The objective of the new levels is to take a key and carry it to a locked door elsewhere in the stage, with every 4th level a boss fight. A game that I need to play in the future, and one that spawned the Mario vs. Donkey Kong games as spiritual successors. As the Donkey Kong Country games were being released, Rare was also working on a similar yet original handheld version of these games called the Donkey Kong Land series, also on Game Boy, using the same Silicon graphics that the Country games used. The Land games, to my surprise, are actually sequels of their respective counterpart Country games, making these games a must-play on my end since I never played them. Each of the Donkey Kong Country games were re-released on Game Boy Advance, and Diddy Kong Racing had an enhanced remake on the Nintendo DS. The last 2 DK games for handheld were DK King of Swing, a top-down puzzle platformer for Game Boy Advance, where you use the right and left trigger buttons to grab pegs and pegboards to reach new platforms and collectibles. And its sequel, DK Jungle Climber on the Nintendo DS, was there but with improved graphics, more closely resembling the original Donkey Kong Country. Some Donkey Kong games were cancelled unfortunately over the years, including an NES Return of Donkey Kong with DK as a playable character in '87. A Super NES prototype, Super Donkey, with equivalent graphics to Yoshi's Island, perhaps repurposed for the latter, was discovered recently. Diddy Kong Pilot was a racing game to be a sequel to Diddy Kong Racing, but due to Rare's acquisition from Microsoft, it was cancelled and repurposed in Banjo Pilot on the Game Boy Advance. Another proposed sequel to Diddy Kong Racing was pitched by the Climax Group titled Diddy Kong Racing Adventure. This goes to show that a lot of ideas don't get past the initial pitch, and as of now, I'm wondering if Nintendo will release another traditional Donkey Kong game, with a different studio now that we know that Retro Studios is all in on the development of Metroid Prime 4 since the start of 2019. I wonder what they were working on for the past 5 years after Tropical Freeze but before Metroid Prime 4, and if it was related to Donkey Kong at all. Donkey Kong wasn't just in his own games, but was part of many other Nintendo properties including the Mario Kart series, the Mario Party series, the Super Smash Bros. Series, and the Mario Sports series. There was also a Donkey Kong Country 90s CGI animated series that aired with the Kong family fighting King K. Rool and his Kremlings over Donkey Kong's vast banana horde. The Donkey Kong series was profound due to the impact it had on not just Nintendo, but the entire video game industry. I don't think we would be here in a place where there is so much saturation in the video game industry that is currently worth more than the music and film and television industries combined. Donkey Kong and later the Mario games, with the new platformer genre, carried the industry in Japan and in North America and in the rest of the world due to Nintendo and Mr. Miyamoto's family-friendly approach to game design, the emphasis on fun overall, and the expert marketing that helped move shelves. Rare and Retro's Donkey Kong Country games are some of the highest selling games on their respective Nintendo platformers and can sell consoles at a whim. These games helped me when I was younger and kept me occupied when I didn't have friends to turn to, and made me really happy playing them, and to this day I revisit them and play them to the same engagement. The retro area games were also great but tough and designed for veterans like myself who played the earlier games to great payoff and satisfaction, yet frustrating at points but not to the point of throwing my controller at the TV screen. From the early arcade games to the Super NES classics, its transition to 3D, and back to a more modern 2.5D on current Nintendo platforms, Donkey Kong was a tour de force that pushed the boundaries of what the side-scrolling action platformer can do, and can easily top the 2D New Super Mario Bros. Series in terms of excitement and ingenuity. I would like to see a new 3D Donkey Kong game, but with the innovation of something as acclaimed as Super Mario Odyssey, and in the near future, and would like to play it to my heart's content, and feel like a child every time I power on the game. Dave Wise's music is incredible, and is some of the best video game music I have ever listened to, period. A great motivator for beginning of the workday. Happy 40th birthday, Donkey Kong, and thank you for spawning forth the Super Mario games and, in my opinion, video gaming in general, a medium that has kept me busy and helped me learn various skills like problem solving, reading, and engagement or investment in the characters you play as. Thank you, Nintendo, Rare, Retro, and everyone else that has worked on this classic series, and I hope this will go forward another 40 years and beyond. On the next Nerdporial Gaming Retrospective. We are back in the Mushroom Kingdom. Princess Toadstool is picking flowers, but Bowser nabs her yet again. Mario confronts Bowser in his castle, but something falls out of the sky, expelling Mario from the castle. What happened to the princess and Bowser? Who are these new colorful characters that debut in this game? Who are these new enemies that are terrorizing the kingdoms? Is there an even greater threat than Bowser and his Koopa Troop? Will Mario and Bowser put aside their history to combat this new threat? All this and more on the next Nerdporial Retrospective, Super Mario RPG, Legend of the Seven Stars. Expect this in early 2022 after the holiday, and make sure to like and subscribe if you have not already. Will Mario be able to super jump his way into saving the world once again? Stay tuned.